I were running the lace shop in Richmond. There came a time that it wasn't doing very well, and of course I had to go and get a job. I got a job, and that was in Sorel here at Coles's, cleaning the foyer and roundabout outside the car park and everything for a couple of hours. And when I was cleaning the foyer, my job was to make sure the bills were paid. But as I was cleaning the foyer, I knew that we didn't have enough money in the bank to pay the bills. And I started to get down spiritually. I started to think, oh, what are we going to do? Because the rates were coming, mortgage was coming, electricity, telephone. They were all coming in, and we didn't have enough money. So all of a sudden, here's what Jesus will never leave you. If Jesus is in your boat, he will get you through to the other side. He dropped a song within my heart. And that song was, turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strange in the light of his glory and grace. You know, I kept on singing that song, and the mop was going further out, and I was rejoicing in Jesus, because Jesus was there. He lifted me out of my distress, and he put me, you might as well say, in cloud 9. And I knew that everything was going to be all right. And yet I don't know whether it was 6 months later or a year later, Glenda came up to me and said, remember that time that we're going through that difficulty with money and everything? I said, yeah. And she said, how did you pay the bills? I looked at it with a puzzled look on my face. And I said to her, I don't know. I said, I don't know. All I know, when the bill came in, I went to the bank. The money was there. I said, all the time I went, the money was there. Jesus said he would never leave you nor forsake you. And when he put that song in my heart, turn your eyes upon Jesus and look full in his wonderful face. And when you do that, you're putting your trouble into his hands, and he will get you through. As I said, if Jesus is in your boat, he will get you there. He will get you through. Let us read now part of Judges. Let us turn to Judges chapter 6. The children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Midians 7 years. And the hand of the Midians prevailed against Israel. And because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them dens, which are in the mountains, and caves and strongholds. And as it was, when Israel had sown, means sowing the seed, that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites, and the children of the east, even they came up against them. And they encamped against them, and destroyed the increase of the earth, till they came unto Gaza, and left no substance for Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor ass. Go to verse 11. And there came an angel of the Lord, and sat under an oak, which was in Ophrah, that pertained unto Joash the Abiezrite, and his son Gideon thrashed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, The Lord is with thee, thy mighty man of valor. Valor means bravery. Valor means a warrior. But he turned round to the Lord and he's told him that his family, that he was born in the tribe of Manasseh. And his family was the poorest in Manasseh, and he was the youngest. He wasn't spoken of very highly. But God saw different than that. God chooses the weak things to confine the wise. But what happened to the children of Israel? Why were they hiding themselves in dens and in the hills and in caves? And why was Gideon hiding himself, thrashing out the wheat and to hide it from the Midianites? What happened to them? They're supposed to be the powerful nation upon the earth that time because they knew God. Well, they're supposed to know God. Like so many people today, they tell you that they know God, but they don't know him. They know only of him. They do not know him. So why were they hiding? Had they forgotten the great victory that God brought to them 40 years back through Deborah and Jael? You know, Christians forget about the blessing that God has given them. They won't tell other people about the blessings that the Lord has given them, how the Lord has brought them out of trouble, how the Lord has supplied them with a need, how the Lord has healed them. It may be even a little thing. I'll tell you one little thing that the Lord did. When Glenda and I was running the B&B and also the lace shop, I was responsible to make sure clean sheets were on the beds of the B&B, make sure coffee and tea and sugar and milk and biscuits and everything else was toilet rolls, shampoo, and that's all right. Make sure toilet rolls were there, soap, shampoo, and everything in the B&B. Well, everything was all right. And after a while, this lady and gentleman came in. I'm staying one night. They phoned Glenda and said, could we have another toilet roll? Glenda said to me, take this toilet roll and put it in that B&B. I looked at her and said, no. She said, take this toilet roll and put it in the B&B. I said, no, I won't. She said, why? I said, because rules are rules. I said, rules are rules. I said, they've got 2 toilet rolls, they've got everything supplied, and if they want another toilet roll, tell them to go to the store and buy one themselves. Well, she got hot under the collar. She said, take the toilet roll and put it in the B&B. I said, no, I won't. Anyway, she took the toilet roll herself and put it in the B&B. Well, this little discussion, you might as well say it was the first disagreement, really, it lasted all day about this toilet roll. So anyway, even going home, she was still on about the toilet roll, and so was I. I said, rules are rules. I said, they got the 2 royal toilet rolls. I said, what to do with them? I said, put them in a suitcase and take them home. I said, tell her to go and get her own toilet roll. Anyway, Glenda had to call in at Coles. So, okay. I stayed in the car. She only wanted a few things. She called in at Coles. And I looked up at the Lord. I said, Lord, I said, am I right or am I wrong? I said, rules are rules. And I said, they had 2 toilet rolls. I said, I didn't know what to do, but I'm not going to give them another toilet roll. Then I was quiet. And you know what the Lord said to me? You know, in my little bit of upset and anger, the Lord spoke to me, and you know what? It wasn't harsh. It wasn't horrible. It was pleasant. It was nice. And you know, I fell in love with his voice. And he said to me, go the extra mile. And when he said that, I knew all was well, and I knew to go the extra mile. So everything was at peace, and I was happy, and everything was all right. But you see, Christians forget what God has done for them. Even a little thing as a toilet roll. I don't say that testily too often. So what happened? They're supposed to be the strongest nation on the face of the earth. And they had forgotten with the victory that God gave them through Deborah and Jael. Who is Deborah anyway? Deborah was married to a husband called Lapidoth. Remember that, Graham? Lapidoth. Lapidoth. And she also was a songwriter. She was a singer. She was a prophetess. She was a mother to Israel. And also she was a judge. She was the fourth judge in the book of Judges. But one thing she wasn't frightened of was King Jabin, king of Canaan. She was not frightened of him, nor the captain of the hosts of the guard, whose name was Sisera. And King Jabin gave him charge over 900 chariots of iron. And Sisera oppressed Israel for 20 years. It's a long time. Oppressed them, worried them, slaughtered them, didn't worry about them. But Deborah wasn't frightened of this man. Her faith was in God and God alone. And one day she sat under a palm tree in between Ramah and Bethel. She sat there, and her namesake was buried there about 400 years before. And that namesake was Deborah, the handmaiden of Rebekah. So she sat under the palm tree, and there she called for Barak. Barak came to her, and she said, "Did not God command you to go and fight the Canaanites, to take with you 10,000 men from the tribe of Zebulun and the tribe of Naphtali?" And Barak turned round to her and said, "I will go if you will go. But if you won't go, I won't go." We don't have too much on Barak, but we do know this, that his faith was not in God or what Deborah had said. He'd rather lean on the arm of a woman than lean on the arm of God. But therefore we mustn't judge Barak very harshly like that, because what if happened if Deborah was wrong? Israel had no weapons. And if you read the book of Judges chapter 5, you will read the song of Deborah. You know, there's 8 songs in the Bible, not counting Psalms. There's 2 songs of Moses, one in Exodus and one in Deuteronomy. The other song is a song of Israel, the song of Deborah, the song of Hannah, the song of David, the song of the great redeemed, and the song of the tribulation saints. 8 songs altogether. So Deborah turned round to Barak and said, I will go with you. And she said, but the honor that will come will not be to you. It will be to a woman. So Israel gathered up anything they could to fight Sisera. They had no weapons, so what did they use? Anything they could lay their hands on. A pitchfork, a club. But what is that with so many 900 chariots of iron? It's like us going to battle with a club to fight 900 tanks that's coming towards you. But we must remember, they weren't fighting a physical battle. They were fighting a spiritual, and God was with them. So off they went to the river called Gideon. Gideon in those days was a little stream. And Sisera was up on the mountain with his armor glittering in the sunset, waiting to wipe out the children of Israel. And as the children of Israel approached, and Sisera approached also, they did not know that there was a storm brewing up upon the mountains. In the song of Deborah, you will find that great drops of water fell from the cloud. And that great drops of water fell, and it rushed down the mountains and down the hills. And when it got to where the river Gideon was, it was like a mighty torrent. And when the chariots were coming, the chariots got washed away like tossed of leaves in the river. But Sisera jumped from his chariot and ran on foot. He ran onto a tent, which was Jael's tent. And she said to him, Master, come in here. Come in here. So he came in, and she hid him under a mantle, some sheepskins or something like that. And he looked at her and said, give me, I pray thee, a drop of water, for he's so thirsty. So she gave him a bottle of milk. And as he drank it, he went to sleep. Now, who is Jael? Jael was married to a man called Deborah, and her name means wild goat. What she did was pretty wild. After Sisera was hid under the blankets, he went fast to sleep because he was so exhausted. But Jael took a tent peg in her left hand and took a hammer in her right hand and softly went over to Sisera, put it on his temple and hammered it into the ground right the way through and nailed him to the ground. Wild goat, Jael. And she left him there. And then when Barak came running, she said, Master, come in here and I will give you the man you want. And there was And there was Caesarea dead on the ground. You see, 2 women were used for the glory of God. And they say that women shouldn't preach. But Paul said, there's neither male nor female, for we're all one in Christ Jesus. Today, God is looking for mighty men and mighty women to go forward to spread the news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. David had mighty men, but where did David's mighty men come from? They were robbers. They were killers. They used to lie in the highways and the byways waiting for the caravan to go through so they could rob them and kill them and take their possessions. And the government was after them. So what did they do? They ran to David and joined David. And why were they mighty? Because they were under the anointing of David, or what David had to do. As you read the book of Judges, you see God always raised up somebody to deliver Israel. But Israel always fell down again. Why? If you read the 5th chapter of Judges, you'll see why. Because they chose other gods to worship, and then war was at the gates. You also will read there also that Israel in the battle didn't have a spear or an arrow to defend themselves. They had nothing. But it was God's battle, and God gave them the victory. We need men and women today to be mighty men and to mighty women of the gospel of Christ. How often do we go into a restaurant or a cafe? How often, and we have food there and drink there, how often do we hold hands and thank the Lord for what we have? A witness for Jesus Christ. Is your light really shining for Jesus? Or do you hide it under a bushel? Jesus knows. And as you go into the same, say, banjos like Glenda and I do, so often, they get to know you. And they watch you. Every step you do, they watch. Just so they can poke a finger at you if you do something wrong. So we are lights for Jesus Christ. You know what? I have a mighty woman. My mighty woman. One day we were standing in Big W, and then all of a sudden she heard somebody standing behind her say, "Oh, the church down the road speaks in other tongues." Well, don't say that about Glenda spun around like a top. And off she went. Mighty woman. Yeah, be a mighty woman or a mighty man for God, because God needs us to stand for him. He has saved you, you know. He didn't save you to sit down on a pew. He saved you to do a work for him. Thank you. The Lord bless you. Hand over now to Bev. Thank you, Bev.